Hi everyone and welcome to another pick a card reading. Now this pick a card has a very specific subject. It is for the upcoming full moon in the sign of Aquarius taking place on the 3rd of August 2020. Now before I get into the reading, I just have to mention that this full moon is going to be quite special because it forms a conversation of maximum tension with the ruling planet of Aquarius, Uranus. So this has surprises, shocks, revelations, truth coming out, epiphanies, moments of sudden realization, maybe unexpected communication, or even if we look at the general symbolism of a new moon, which is like culmination, completion, it can be the light of the moon shedding clarity on something hidden from our sights. Either way, it has a massive surprise factor, and at the same time, Uranus, the planet of truth, it has to have some kind of unexpected or surprising element, or maybe, an invitation to get out of your comfort zone, or rebellion, inner revolution, an unexpected change attached to it. So what I'm trying to say here is that regardless of what the cards show and how the cards show it, well, this is still under a veil of mystery until it actually happens, until it takes place. So no matter what I'm going to say or how I'm going to interpret the cards, well, the surprise factor is still something that the revelation of this pick a card reading just simply can't take away. So regardless of what the cards show, just expect a surprise. Of course, it might not always be a personal surprise, because there's so much going on the world stage. We're in a big, complicated, multifaceted turmoil, so it can be simply something that sources from external reality, which might provoke a very strong reaction or anything like that. But either way, I personally think that this is one of those moments when nothing can really ruin the surprise factor, which this full moon it has attached to it very, very strongly. And another element which I would like to mention before we get into the reading is that Aquarius is the astrological house of hopes, dreams, the future, the long-term future. That is where the moon is going to be standing from, and the sun is in the sign of Leo, the opposite house of Aquarius. So it is the heart space, what we feel, our passion, our identity, our ego, our inner child. So however this plays out, on one hand it can influence our future plans, how we envisage our future, what we want to experience in our futures, but at the same time also how we feel towards it, what we love, what we're passionate for, what we feel in our hearts, the truth inside our hearts. So this can be a moment where the game changes mostly from within. So after these being said, just look at the 4 piles of cards for a couple of seconds and then choose the one which your intuitive senses guide you to, and then naturally just jump straight to the interpretation. You can find the timestamps in the comments below. For those of you who were attracted to the first pile, your cards are the 10 of Swords reversed and the Fool. The 10 of Swords reversed might represent your present moment situation, where on one hand you might be a little bit disillusioned, your passions might not really be burning that very strongly deep inside of you, because you might be facing a situation where you're stuck, stagnating, or simply nothing seems to progress or move forward from every single perspective. This stagnation might affect or influence every single area of your life. So you are basically feeling very trapped, and your only solution might be to surrender just absolutely everything, because you might have reached a point where you just say, well, you simply don't know. You don't even know what you want in the future. You don't even know how to get there, as in what steps you need to take to secure your future. The big goals of your recent past, for example, some which you might have been really passionate for in the year 2019 and you have worked a lot for them, might just simply lose all importance because of the global situation or because the social, economic, political instability, or it's simply just your life, your external reality. You might be feeling defeated. You might be feeling, when a soldier just puts the sword down, the weapon down, and they just don't want to be immersed into the conflict or whatever they were fighting for. But this Ten of Swords is reversed because, in the recent past, maybe starting from 2018 or 2019, so very many things that happened to you, especially the karmic things, especially those events in your life which that made a lot of sense, maybe offered you some sense of closure or forward progress, or they were the light at the end of the tunnel, what you fought for, what you strived for, worked for. So everything did make a lot of sense, and you were motivated by hope, you were motivated by your own sense of logic, where mentally you could just make sense of everything and how things can possibly come together. But you may have reached a point where it is exactly that has been taken away from you, in the sense that nothing makes sense in the present moment. You cannot even see where this is going towards. This is where intuition or foresight, logic, rationality, even instinct, gut feeling, simply nothing makes sense, nothing helps. You're lost. Maybe not emotionally, maybe not as in spiritually, but mentally you're definitely lost because you just can't figure things out anymore. And this full moon is going to be extremely surprising for you, maybe for you more surprising than for anyone else, because either an information or a very relevant karmic manifestation is going to very, very quickly, spontaneously, instantly, without any warning, without any further guidance or anything preceding it, might just enter your life, where you can see why nothing is over yet, why it's not a defeat for you, it's not really stagnation. You might see actually where you're going towards, exactly what you were stuck with, will finally at least show some signs of where it is evolving towards, or what it's gonna be, what options or chances you have. And this is going to be a moment when the Fool, as in your new beginning, stepping into your future, starting out on a new journey, is going to be strongly interlinked with everything that happened in your life until this present moment. As in, the recent past, not childhood and going back many tens of years, but 2016, 2018, something like that. So the recent karmic events in your life are going to make that much more sense. The puzzle can finally be beheld onto what it truly is, to where it's leading you towards. So this can be like an inner realization or epiphany, but where clarity just comes to you from external communication or being at the right place at the right time, so everything is going to click in your head and you can finally make sense of everything. Or it could be some powerful manifestation of an event that you need to move forward. So it's a really, really positive manifestation, even though, there is a little bit of stress, there is a little bit of inner rebellion involved in all of this. Because the Fool also represents that you no longer care about your history, you no longer care about who you thought you were, you no longer care about what you worked towards in the distant past. You only care about who you are in the present moment, the feeling, the passion, the hopes and dreams alive in your heart in the present moment. And this is exactly what you need to make a quantum leap to where you need to be. But maybe it is this thing that doesn't meet your expectations, because you might have envisaged just, abandoning everything, every single area of your life, and just starting somewhere totally fresh and new. But maybe this is not how it's going to take place, because it's going to be like a chain reaction where the very recent past makes a lot of sense and it's very, very important, and that is going to be the key to your future. So nothing that has been taking place in your life the past 2-3 years was in vain. It has a very strong significance, and this is what's going to open the gates to the future for you. But there is one thing that the Fool also represents, and that is where you abandon your old identity, so to speak, but you also have to abandon the significance of your old experiences, which basically were meant to train you how to navigate in those times, so to speak. But now, since we're all of us are heading towards a new paradigm, well, there is a lot of learning, adaptation, refining, readapting, refining or reconfiguring skills, know-how, methodology, your knowledge, everything like this in the future. So yes, it is a new beginning, definitely, but you're also stepping into the role as in the archetype of the student, of the apprentice. So one way or another, you're definitely going to be learning a lot of new things in the close future. But it is exactly this need to, just be the apprentice once more, that is the biggest and most massive blessing that you could receive, because there is such a thing as beginner's luck. There is such a thing that good fortune or divine intervention or divinely organized, orchestrated, synchronized events can just guide you, help you, shower you with ideas, inspiration, and everything that you need. So if you can see the picture, the Fool carries a little bag or pouch on its back. Well, that is his dose of good luck and divine benevolence, which can guide him through all the way on his journey until he becomes the master. Now for you, those of you who have chosen the second pile, your cards are the 5 of Wands reversed and the 7 of Swords reversed. Now this is also a really wonderful and fantastic combination, and it speaks about a psychological transformation or a psychological rebirth, so to speak, because the 5 of Wands reversed represents conflict. It can also represent the spirit of competition, competitiveness. It can represent very many goals, regardless of their nature. May they be professional, purely personal, or anything. It can be absolutely anything which really motivated you in the past, but they motivated you in a very illusionary or not very healthy way, because all those goals that you wanted to accomplish, all those symbolically said competitions that you wanted to at least be relevant in, or to meet standards, or to prove something to other people, or to yourself, to your family, to your friends, to your local community. So it can be everything where you just want to prove yourself, you want to prove your skills, your strength, your professionalism, that you're worthy, that you're capable of doing, everything that others can. But this has a nuance of others. There was always others. And when society kind of forces certain standards, certain unwritten rules upon you, well, it doesn't really matter who you are. You still have a fragile human heart inside of you. So of course you are going to be inclined to prove yourself, to prove your worth, to prove that you're capable. And it is exactly this that suddenly, unexpectedly ends. This is where you're definitely going to be disconnected from any, like tension or conflict between you and society, as in you wanted to meet certain expectations, or this is where a conflict between you and your family, for example, because they want you to be someone and you might not want to be that someone. Either this conflict ends, or simply your spirit of competition, competitiveness, survival instinct, survival mentality, that you have to survive, you have to make it in a specific way, or you have to have this and that in your life. Well, all of these desires which are not really yours, they're basically like programs, or they stem from education, they stem from society, and they might have really nothing to do with you, because you're not and you never were that kind of person. Competition means something totally different for you. It means, like games, it means strategy, it means trying out your luck. It is, like experimentation, trying new experiences and see where they lead to. You are not really someone who has to have their own way no matter what. You're simply just very, very playful. You're a very, very good team player. You're a very light-hearted person. So of course, immersing into like heavy competition is something that is simply not your cup of tea. But of course, in the past, you might not have had that many choices, because you had to survive within society. But this is where everything is changing for you, and this might be a massive realization that you no longer live in the same world, that you no longer live in the same times, and that the old sense of normality is no longer even valid. It doesn't exist anymore. And this is where you're finally going to realize that from every single perspective and angle, the future is going to be actually what you make of it, and not what others force upon you directly or indirectly, because this is how your mind and your soul needed this experience to see that even if you meet all the requirements, all the expectations, even if you would be on top of your game, as in social competitiveness or social hierarchy or whatever, at this present moment that would mean absolutely nothing for you. It wouldn't advantage you in any single way. Quite the opposite. This is when you would be so very afraid and worried and desperate not to lose out, to protect your goods, to protect your position, to protect your image, your place in society. But this is where you realize that none of this has absolutely nothing to do with you. So what a massive blessing it is that you are free, really, that you're not really sucked into the competition, you're not sucked into the drama. Whatever happens, it doesn't really matter to you. Exactly because you're such a good team player and you can just go with the flow, you can adapt yourself to anything, and because you're the kind of person where it's not their way or the highway, well, everyone is going to treat you with much, much greater sympathy than those people who you might have competed against in the distant past. So basically, this is you figuring out, reaching your awareness, the light bulb being turned on to maximum luminosity in your mind, that what a blessing the disadvantages of your past truly were, because right now, even maybe not materially, not maybe 100%, but you're still infinitely freer than most people that you can see in your life, that you can see in your local community and society, in your culture, whatever. And actually one of your biggest future goals is going to be born inside of you, inside of your mind, where the biggest thing that you actually want to accomplish in the future is to keep your life this way, is to protect your freedom, to protect your light-hearted and childlike, innocent, free spirit from, and of course mind and heart and every single part of your being is included here, but mostly the mind. That might be the most vulnerable part of your being. So this is gonna be one of your major goals, to protect yourself, to protect your freedom. So you will, the Seven of Swords reversed, well, you are going to disconnect from a lot of circles, maybe like social media groups, a lot of people who you considered your friends or acquaintances, because their world, their reality still holds this need to survive the competition, to be on top of the game, not to lose out. And since you realize that you have absolutely nothing to do with that anymore, well, they're going to shed off like old skin. This is going to be one of your first gestures, the first thing you do to protect your freedom, by disconnecting from all mental pollutants. And naturally they are either people or people virtually. And on the other hand, the Seven of Swords reverse, this is where many times you're just lost in your own world, in your own thoughts. Sometimes you're very, very disconnected from physical reality, as in the Seven of Swords represents society, not as much, natural surroundings or physical elements of life. And in the past you might have seen this with not so pleasant eyes, as in you might have thought that this is not such a good thing. But this is where you're actually overjoyed, because what a great blessing this is. This is what life should have been about all the time. You just existing in your own world and being happy with yourself. Just living life, experiencing life how you want to, how it is natural and comfortable and true for you, and not how, for example, it is forced upon you. So either way, it is this psychological reconfiguration or a powerful soul level epiphany that is just going to illuminate your mind, that is going to be a massive game changer. Because once you make the decision to fully live your own story without anything getting involved into it, and this represents neither spirituality, neither anyone's rules and regulations that you do not accept, well, this is going to be a big, big blessing for you. Now moving on to the third pile, here we have the Empress clarified by the Five of Wands. Now this can represent two separate symbols, expressions of the symbolism. So for some people, the Empress can represent their sense of self-worth, maybe because they are very skilled, talented, learned, experienced at something. It could be professionally or in other, maybe a hobby, a sport, or it can be absolutely anything. But you might have had certain problems or maybe a setback all your life, because like other people who embody the same thing or have the same skills, same activities, etc., who are definitely not as talented as you, or maybe some even don't have any spark of talent whatsoever, yet it seemed that everything would advantage only others and never really you. And because of this, as in, maybe you always had 4th place, 5th place, but truly always deserved the 1st place because you were the best of the best, simply said. And because of this, you might have always had a certain self-esteem or self-worth issue, which, it wasn't really your fault, because what are you supposed to do when outer reality reflects only this all the time? So this is where you just simply can't blame yourself. it was what it was. And this might be either a karmic event where you have a massive opportunity to just give everything that you have and shine, be out there and do your thing and just prove to yourself once and for all who and how truly amazing you are. Or it could be something which sources from the past, where this is the moment when you have some kind of recognition or honors or anything to bring out the inner Venus, the inner Empress from inside of you. And this is where it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. It is the symbolism of Venus, as in worth, as in pleasant, as in the highest possible quality in this sense. So it doesn't really matter if you are, for example, like an artist or have any kind of talent and you use it as a hobby, which didn't turn into, a source of income, so to speak. Or if you're a business person or have a business or a project or anything like that. And for some people it could be as simple as being a good parent, because this can have so much to do with the symbolism of the Empress as well. Or being a good partner or parent or co-worker or manager. It doesn't matter what it is. But this is where it's gonna, reality basically, karma, fate, the universe, is gonna simply reflect back at you just how good you are. It's going to be like a massive confirmation of your self-worth. Now for other people, this Empress can have a totally different kind of interpretation, where it might speak about matters of the heart, love, relationship, anything which has to do with romance. Where on one hand, you might not be the most popular person, but exactly for what you embody, what you represent, even as a human being. This is where you know exactly who you are, you know exactly what you came here to do, you know how good or distinctive you are, and you don't really need the confirmation or even an opinion or anything from another person. But this might have certain consequences, because not very many people in your life, or no matter where you would go or where you would search, no one can really stir up your romantic interest because of your great life experience, because of your vision, because what you embody. You can just see illusions, you can see self-deception, you can see like naivety, or where other people don't really know who they are deep inside of them. So basically no one actually managed to truly catch and hold your interest or even spark up your imagination or any kind of romantic desire. This is where you're a kind of person who just runs as fast as they can from love and romance, especially to the modern expression of this. Well, because you see the ego in it, you see the illusion in it, you see the selfishness in it, and it's definitely not your cup of tea. But this is where this full moon might totally shock you, because a person might enter into your sphere of awareness, connect to you in any way, shape or form, who is really gonna shock you and surprise you. Well, because on one hand, you're really going to feel a very strong intellectual, mental, even philosophical compatibility. But the twist in everything, maybe this person might be someone who would naturally be your opposite, who might naturally represent as in competition for you, maybe symbolically speaking, a natural predator who, internally is very much like you and operates just like you. but the role they embody is something which might challenge your own role, or it might be your counterpart. But either way, this connection is going to come together exactly to help both you and this other person to simply give up very rigid attachment to the role that you embody and just look outside the box that a romantic connection or any kind of romantic or heart-based alliance is actually possible outside your roles. So if both you and this person can just simply detach from certain principles or certain moral rules that you protect or embody or operate with, well, then this can give birth to a wonderful and really exciting new relationship, where of course you're going to have certain ideological, philosophical, etc. clashes and battles, but it is exactly that which will make it so very fantastic, magical, wonderful, and it's gonna be a big opportunity for the both of you to just evolve. So there is a very strong potential for this person to represent the end of your solitude, so to speak, the end of your romantic independence, but this will be a big question of choice. Even if you would choose not to, you and this person are still going to mirror each other, and you're going to have a very strong karmic role in each other's lives. Now, for those of you who were guided to the fourth pile, your cards are the Six of Wands and the Four of Swords reversed. Now, this interpretation for this pile is under a shroud of mystery, because the big picture, while it is something that is going to lead you to triumph, it is something that is going to guide you to your own personal victory, accomplishment, a big breakthrough, something that you really needed in your life to break a certain kind of mental or intellectual or maybe karmic stagnation, which has been pretty much holding your life in chains for the past 4 years. So basically for you guys, it's going to be the very first sign that divine timing is here, that the divine timer is finally starting to tick, and it's almost going to lead you to that moment when it rings, when it's finally what you have been waiting for or planned. Maybe that mysterious opportunity which you kind of felt that it was coming into your life, but you just couldn't figure out what it is, how it's gonna play out, when it's gonna happen. Something like that is nearing completion, getting closer and closer to fulfillment. And you might also have received certain signs in your dreams, but these are not like literal signs. These may be very unusual, weird, almost grotesque dreams, which had a very powerful symbolistic value and expression. But it's not dreams that you received recently, but rather when you started out on this journey to break the silence, to break the stagnation, when you finally started to work for your breakthrough and you invested a lot of power. And naturally, over the course of that period, you kept asking the divine for signs of, or maybe your higher self just sent you, guidance and encouragement, etc. But among those signs, there were these very shocking, maybe impactful, unsettling dreams which didn't make sense at that time. And this is now when whatever you received, whatever symbols you received in the dreams are happening in your life, and you finally gonna know that the moment of your breakthrough, the moment of that victory, of that eureka moment is very, very near. But the way it's going to happen, well, it is something that both meets your expectation because, you received it through dreams, so you kind of have the basic idea of what it can be, but it will also be a total surprise because you only have a certain dimension to your expectations, but on the other hand, the universe can give it a totally different shape and form, which both matches what was actually whispered to you, but also it surpasses everything that you could have thought of, or the way you interpreted all those dreams and visions and whatever you had. So basically, regardless of how your own personal situation is, for those of you who chose pile number 4, where this is where you become aware that you're almost at the finish line, that you only have to sprint, speed up, endure, focus, concentrate, etc. a very short time, because afterwards what you wanted to accomplish or where you were guided towards is finally coming. And also, not for everyone naturally, but for some of you, one of the big symbols is a raven or another kind of bird which resembles very strongly a raven, like a crow or carrion crow or anything like that. As in a dark bird, that is the synchronicity, that is the symbol. So when you're gonna see the bird in a very unusual way, as in when you know that it's something directly meant for you, then it is when you know that you can expect something big to enter your life, and just prepare yourself. But either way, regardless of how this plays out, regardless of how your situation is, this is still really, really good news. Because it can potentially mean that by the end of autumn, well, you guys are already going to be in your position of power, or you are going to already be embodying that 6 of Wands, as in the knight who just accomplished something big, someone who returns home triumphant, someone who basically harvests the fruits of their victory. Well, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. Wish everyone a magical and blessed full moon, and I hope that the surprises Uranus has in store for all of us are going to be the most pleasant and delightful, and not really the different kind of expression. Thank you once again. Wish everyone a safe and blessed day.